The Franciscans arrived in the Philippines in 1578, and almost immediately after their arrival, they began their work of evangelization not only in Manila but also in the far-flung provinces of the archipelago, such as Laguna, Bulacan, Quezon, Bicol, and the Visayas. Two of the provinces the Franciscans first evangelized were Laguna and Quezon. The missionary task fell into the hands of Fray Juan de Plasencia and Fray Diego de Oropresa. Fray Juan and Fray Diego preached the gospel to the natives and also gathered them into basic ecclesial communities, which eventually became the present towns and parishes. In the midst of these communities arose the symbol of the Christian faith, the churches. The church became the center of life and faith of the community. The rhythm of the day-to-day life of the people is accompanied by the ringing of the church bells, or as they say in Spanish, bajo de la campana. The Church of San Bartolome, Naglarlan. Naglarlan was only a small barangay when it was first colonized by the Spaniards, led by Captain Juan de Salcedo, the grandson of Miguel Lopez de Legazpi in 1571. The conversion of the natives to Christianity began shortly after the arrival of the first group of Franciscans in 1578. However, it was only in 1583 that the town had its first permanent priest, Fray Tomas de Miranda. The first church was made of wood and nipa. It was dedicated to San Bartolome. In 1752, the town stone and brick church was built under the direction of Fray Cristobal Torres. The materials used for the construction of the church came from the nearby area. The missionaries relied on whatever material the people may offer, and this explains the multicolored stones and bricks that make the church walls. The church was burned in 1781, but Fray Atanasio de Argobejo did immediate repairs. Fray Fernando de la Puebla, to whom the construction of the existing four-story bell tower is attributed, finished the repair works. In 1845, the parish priest Fray Vicente Bello did a general restoration on the church along the Baroque style. New and elaborately designed tiles were laid to add splendor to the church flooring. In the 1990s, extensive repair and restoration took place under the supervision of the then parish priest, Monsignor Jose Barrion. The Franciscan spirit continues to make its presence felt through the Franciscan coat of arms stamped on the bells of the Church of Naglarlan, the seal of the crossed arms of Christ and Saint Francis is marked on all the bells of the churches built by the Franciscans.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Agatona Bubia, the curator of the Naglarlan Underground Cemetery, historical landmark. This cemetery was declared historical in 1982 by the National Historical Institute. Because in the year 1896, during the Philippine Revolution, this underground cemetery was used as the secret meeting place of the leaders of the revolution in the province of Laguna. This is a Catholic cemetery owned by the parish of Naglarlan. Its administration and upkeep is under the National Historical Institute. The cemetery was constructed in 1845 during the time of Father Vicente Velio, a Franciscan missionary. The cemetery was constructed in this once remote and hilly part of the town because before, the dead were buried inside the parish church of Naglarlan. Because the church was built in the middle of the town, Father Velio became concerned of the health of the people. We know that it is not good for the people when the cemetery is located in their midst. Now, however, the cemetery is surrounded by many houses. But in 1845, this place was uninhabited. At present, the cemetery is no longer open for burial. On the upper level, the last interment was in 1981. On the lower level, the last interment was in 1974. In building the cemetery, the priest took advantage of the irregular formation of its terrain and constructed the underground level. The underground level was for the exclusive use of the elite in those times and for priests who, before they died, expressed their desire to be buried in the underground level. There are 2 priests buried in the underground level. In the Philippines, this is the only underground cemetery.
The Church of San Antonio de Padua, Pila. It was the Augustinian missionaries who first evangelized the town of Pila. But in 1578, the Franciscans, led by Fray Juan de Plasencia and Fray Diego de Ropresa, took over the administration of the town. Impressed by the faith of the town folks, Fray Ropresa chose to establish himself in the town, while Fray Plasencia opted for the town of Lumban as his home base. With Fray Ropresa as its first parish priest, the Church of Pila was inaugurated on the feast day of San Antonio de Padua on June 13, 1581. With San Antonio as its protector, the church is said to be the first parish in the Philippines to be dedicated to the saint. The construction of the church, made of stone, began in 1599. However, due to constant flooding, the town altogether transferred to its present site of Santa Clara in 1800. The present church, together with the convent, was completed in 1849 under the supervision of Fathers Antonio Argobejo and Domingo de Valencia. However, both buildings suffered damages during the 1880 earthquake. The church faces a huge patio, with its facade appearing as a well-arranged composition with proportional height and width. Divided into 3 levels, the vertical division of the frontage is dominated by superposition classical Doric columns in pairs at the middle part and single columns at the outer front. On the left side of the church is the 3-level square base octagonal bell tower. The church bell, which is a date inscription of 1681, is known to be the 3rd oldest in the country. The Church of San Juan Bautista, Liliw. Liliw was a small barangay and part of Naglarlan when it was first evangelized by Fray Juan de Plasencia and Fray Diego de Ropresa. In 1605, Fray Miguel y San Lucas was assigned as its permanent priest. The first church was made of wood. It was dedicated to San Juan Bautista. In 1643, the construction of a concrete church and convent began. An earthquake in 1880 partially destroyed the church that was reconstructed in 1885. However, on April 6, 1898, the church was gutted by fire. Reconstruction, however, followed thereafter. Tradition says that a wooden statue of San Buenaventura that wept blood in 1664 was being venerated in this church. The walls of the church are made of both red bricks and adobe blocks. The facade, made of red bricks, is divided into 3 levels. To the right of the church is a huge 3-level square base octagonal bell tower covered with a dome on top of which is a cupola. The Church of San Gregorio Magno, Mahayhay. The stone marker found in the facade wall indicated that the first missionaries who visited Mahayhay were the Augustinians. Though it was not explicitly expressed whether a chapel was built, it is presumed that the structure for the purpose was built in a site called Mayit in 1571. A fire destroyed the structure in 1576. In 1578, when the Franciscan friars led by Fray Juan Plasencia founded a mission in Mahayhay, they immediately rebuilt the burned church that was dedicated to the patron saint San Gregorio Magno. Though an authorization for the construction of a stone church was given in 1599, the project could not materialize due to fires that gutted the church 3 times in between rebuilding. When the town and consequently the church were burned in 1602, The new site of the town was transferred to Ilayan, Mahayhay. Here a church of stone was built, only to be destroyed again by a fire in 1616. It was only in 1619 that the construction of a stone church began through the assistance of Maestro de Campo Don Buenaventura de Mendoza. This church was completed in 1649. However, in 1660, a fire destroyed a large part of the town, and the church unfortunately did not escape the disaster. This prompted the government to require the natives to work uninterrupted for a period of 6 months in the rebuilding of the church. However, the workers saw no need for it to be totally built. They instead re-strengthened the structural components of the edifice. Fray Jose de Puertollano decided to sandwich the ruined walls between 2 layers of brick, thus giving the church walls an unusual thickness of about 3 meters. The repair was finished in 1830. In 1839, 1842, and 1848, typhoons destroyed the church and was subsequently reconstructed by the people. The Church of Mahayhay staggers the eye because of its tremendous proportions and massiveness. The church of stone and brick is in fact one of the few, if not the only 3-story church existing in the country today. The Church of San Luis Obispo de Tolosa, Lucban. The Franciscan friars Fray Juan de Plasencia and Fray Diego de Ropresa came to evangelize Lucban in 1578. It remained a visita or a chapel due to the scarcity of priests who will administer to the spiritual needs of the natives. In 1595, it finally had its permanent priest, Fray Miguel de Talavera. A church made of wood was built and was placed under the protection of San Luis Obispo of Tolosa. In 1629, the structure was destroyed and the church was transferred to its present site. A church made of stone and masonry covered with nipa was soon built in 1630 and was completed in 1640, while the convent was finished in 1650. In 1683, the roof of the church was changed to tiles, and so with the convent under the supervision of Fray Francisco de Huerta. A fire destroyed the structure in 1733. It was on the same year that the church was reconstructed under the administration of Fray Pascual Martinez and was finished in 1738. The church was partially destroyed during the Second World War and was reconstructed under the leadership of Monsignor Antonio Radovan and with the assistance of some friends from America and the Historical Conservation Society.
Ito pong Basilica Minor ni San Miguel ay itinayo una na noong...
This minor basilica of San Miguel was built in the year 1585 by Fray Diego de Ropresa and Fray Juan de Plasencia, both Franciscan missionaries. They were the builders of the first church in Tayabas. In the beginning, this was just made of wood, nipa, anahaw, and other native materials to make a what we call Camarine-type church. But in the year 1590, Saint Peter Baptist decided to rebuild the church, and thus was built in the region of Tayabas, the first church made of stones and concrete.
1890. Hanggang nito pong
Because of earthquakes,
1860
the structure was rebuilt several times and finally was finished in 1816. The ground plan is designed like the outline of a key, like the outline of this key.
Ito po ay pinagkalooban ng titulong
The church is given the title of Basilica in 1988 by Pope John Paul II because of its unusual size, beauty, and unique architecture.
arkitektura. Isa pa ito sa tinuturing na
This church is also considered the longest church, not only in the Philippines, but in all of Asia.
dito rin po
Here, you will also find the oldest clock in Asia, which was attached to the tower in the year 1880.
1818, to be exact, March 23, 1818.
Church dates from 1599. The second church, built in 1605, was replaced by the third in 1641. In 1703, the town was transferred to Lumang Bayan, but the earthquakes and the floods of 1743 destroyed the church and the town and caused the people to transfer to the present site. The present church was built in 1748. According to Father Albert Marfil, this place was only a mission area of the Franciscan from Tayabas. And originally, the name of the place, the church, is Santa Clara. Yeah, I heard that
Yeah,
there's a cave.
I heard that there's a cave that St. Peter Baptist used to go into. It's there in that old convent, which is now used as a school of the Franciscan missionaries of Mary. I have not seen the cave yet.
I established the Parish Council on Church Heritage. Kasi nga, napakayaman itong Yung
The crucifix in the church was donated by the King of Spain.
by the King of Spain.
The crucifix came from Burgos, Spain.
The Church of Santa Magdalena. The town of Magdalena was known as Ambling, a barangay of Mahayhay, until it separated from the latter in 1821. The first church was made of wood and cogon, dedicated to Santa Maria Magdalena in 1820. The following year, the Franciscan Fray Antonio Moreno was appointed its first parish priest. Captain Pablo de la Concepcion, in 1829, decreed the building of a stone church so that the townspeople were levied taxes to raise funds for the church building. In addition, the people were required to quarry sand and stone from the river. Construction work on the church continued until 1839 and ceased after that. Resumption on the construction continued only in 1849 until it was finished in 1855. Facing a rather large plaza, the church is elevated on a high podium reached by a flight of steps. At the left of the church is a 4-level octagonal bell tower on a square base. A domical roof with a lantern above is placed over the tower. The bell tower was finished in 1861. The Church of San Sebastian, Lumban. Lumban was for a time the center of all missionary activities in Laguna. It was placed under the protection of St. Francis of Assisi because Lumban held the distinction as the first Franciscan mission settlement. However, in the 18th century, the town adopted San Sebastian, the martyr, as its patron saint, and since then the parish bore the name of the saint. In 1578, Fray Juan de Plasencia chose to minister in Lumban. In order to begin the work of evangelization, a church made of bamboo and thatch was constructed in a place called Entablado, found in the northern part of Lumban. Destroyed by a flood, a new church made also of wood was again built. However, the structure suffered another destruction, and this time by fire. In 1586, when Fray Pedro Bautista, now San Pedro Bautista, was the parish priest, he obtained permission for the building of a new church and convent that was to be made of stone. With permission granted by the Governor General, Lumban Church was reputed to be the first stone church built in Laguna. Finished in 1600, after long years of hard labor and several tragedies, it was also considered to be the first Franciscan building made of stone built outside Manila. It was also here that the Blessed Sacrament was reserved for the first time outside of Manila in 1600. The church was heavily damaged during the Japanese occupation in 1941. In 1947, it was seriously damaged by a storm. The church was repaired in the ensuing years. On the right of the church is the square-based 3-level octagonal bell tower. Atop the bell tower is the statue of San Sebastian, its patron saint.
Ang pangalan ko po ay Brother Florentino.
My name is Brother Florentino Juarez.
Pinakang caretaker po.
I am the caretaker of the church
Nagsimula po.
since 1972.
Bali po ang napalitan po rito nung
The church has experienced a series of repairs. The National Historical Institute restored the church in 1978.
po nito ay yung
Originally,
painting po.
the ceiling was fully decorated with paintings,
Itong
but the ceiling collapsed during the earthquake of August 21, 1937.
ni-restore po ito ng mga
During the restoration,
pinalitan.
they replaced the ceiling with plain V-cut wood. The original roofing was of tiles, but now it has been replaced with galvanized iron. The tiles that you see on the floor are of recent make, replacing the original tiles that were already cracked and broken. But the retablos that you see are the same retablos put up when the church was first constructed. They were sculptured and put up in 1807 by Bartolome Palatino and Julian Macahumpay.
Sila mga nag-ukit po na yan. Kung makikita natin doon sa main altar,
in the main altar, the crucifix, Tibi Solis, is original.
Tapos yung sumunod po ay yung patron sa Santiago.
The statue of our patron saint, Saint James, is also original. So is the statue of Saint Peter Baptist. The retablos on the left and the right are also original.
Retablo po ng Pentecostes.
The retablo of Pentecostes, retablo of the Ascension, the retablo of the Santo Entierro, and the retablo of Pieta. Among the other statues, the original are that of Saint Clare, Saint Anthony of Padua, and the statue of Santo Entierro. The statue of Santo Entierro was brought from Spain by the Franciscan missionaries led by Fray Juan de Plasencia. Etched at the back of the neck of the statue is the year 1516. The statues that were originally brought by the Franciscans themselves were that of Santo Entierro, Saint James, which is of ivory and now is in the care of Paraiso family, the statue of the Sorrowful Mother, and the statue of the Holy Child, which is also of ivory.
The Church of San Pedro, Alcantara, and Our Lady of Turumba, Pakil. The town of Pakil was part of Paete until 1676, and Fray Francisco de Barajas became its permanent priest. Pakil took its name from its datu, Gat Pakil, who ruled the town in 1575. Under the protection of San Pedro de Alcantara, its first church structure was made of bamboo and nipa. In 1732, the construction of the stone church and the convent began under the direction of Fray Fernando de Horo. Destroyed by a fire in 1739, the construction of the church nevertheless was finished in 1767. In 1788, the image of Nuestra Señora de los Dolores de Turumba was enshrined in the church. In 1851, a big fire destroyed the convent and a portion of the church. It was a miracle that the image of the Nuestra Señora de los Dolores de Turumba was spared from the fire. From then on, the devotion to the Virgin increased. In 1852, both the church and the convent were restored under the supervision of Fray Juan de Llerena. In 1881, another earthquake destroyed the bell tower and the roof of the church. Fray Juan de Jos Villajos immediately made repairs on the roof of the same year. Although the interior of the church has been renovated recently, the design of the church remains the same. Its facade is a reflection of the fine craftsmanship the town is known for. The church bells put up by the Franciscans still continue to ring today, touching the hearts of the faithful, inviting them to proclaim the love and kingship of Jesus Christ in their lives, through worship, work, and in their relationship with one another.